All right, welcome to part 3 on our lecture series of pitch. And we're going to pick up where we left off. And how do we notate pitch? Pitch notation that we know it today has developed over many centuries. Okay, so it was birthed out of oral tradition when composers were finally like, we've got to develop a way to make sure that the music we compose is performed the way we intend it. Because if you're familiar with the game of like where you whisper in somebody's ear and you pass it around the room, how quickly things change. Same thing happened with music, okay? When we didn't have a system for writing music down, the music changed a lot. And so eventually composers wanted to ensure that what they had written would remain what they had intended it to be, okay? So we started out with crude systems, then we developed very sophisticated systems. The system that we use today has remained mostly unchanged since the Baroque period. And I say mostly because there are some experimental notation systems out there. But for most music that we are looking at, the Baroque period really set the standard. So you can pick up a piece of music written in 1700 and be able to play it because it is written in a methodology that we understand. The grand staff is the most common staff used. We actually have an example of that coming up on a future slide, so I'm not going to show that to you. But the big thing about the grand staff is the presence of middle C. And if you've ever taken piano lessons in your life, middle C is where you live life for a very long time. It's the C nearest the middle of the piano, and it's very important. Okay? And there's more info here. Now, this is a live link in the slideshow. But if you're ever curious about learning how to read music or do more with music, I cannot recommend musictheory.net enough. It is a great tool. One of the best that's out there. Is it the only one? No, but it is really good. And they have some apps that you can buy as well, and I encourage you to do that as well. Support them because they are a tremendous resource. So here's the grand staff. Few things to notice. It has a treble clef, also known as the G clef, because this little circle thing here goes around the G line. Okay. And then we have the F clef, which is down here, also known as the bass clef. Okay, so the proper name is G clef for the treble clef, F clef for the bass clef. And this is F because these two little dots and this little part here are around the F line. Okay? And so here is from C3, this is C3, all the way up to C5 on the staff. And look, here's middle C, that's C4. So the staff shares, the grand staff shares custody of C4, okay? And this is most commonly seen in the piano world. It usually has a bracket on it, and it's the most common used staff. Now, if you're a flute player, you're familiar with the treble clef. If you're a tuba player, you're familiar with the bass clef. If you're a guitar player, treble clef. If you're a bass player, bass clef. But if you play a different instrument, like let's say viola, you're used to the alto clef because there are more than just the two clefs. Okay, so here's a nice little description of the octave. Now, I've already talked about the octave, and I left a few slides out, but they give you a piano keyboard and the octave of C to shining C there. Okay? So notating melody. Precise notation of melody is given on the staff. Okay? So we take our musical staff. Oh, that image is right over some information. But let's say I want to write a song. Okay? And I'm just going to write a treble clef song. I'm just going to draw it down here. There are 5 lines, 4 spaces. Okay? I'm going to draw my treble clef and make, oh, that is awful, but pretend that's a good treble clef. Treble clefs are hard to draw, but my line's still circled around my G line. But let's say I want to write a song that goes C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. And then let's see, this is going to be in 4/4. So that means 4 quarter notes to each measure. So I got do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Okay? Or, coming back to our ABC song, let me just erase this quickly, if it'll let me. Sometimes this app gets a little glitchy, so I apologize in advance. Okay, so I'm going to draw a different one. Try to make my treble clef a little bit neater. But if you think back to our ABC song, I'm going to draw a neater treble clef here. I could go A, B, C, D, Do, Do, Mi, Mi, E, F, G. No, na, fa. I got the notation wrong. But anyway, if I sat down and wrote out the notation, I could write out the melody to the ABCD song. This should have been an F, and then this should have been H, I, J, K, and then we'd have our elemental P coming over there. But you can see how we can write out the melody so that I can hand this music to somebody else and they can perform it exactly as I intended it to be performed. And that's the end goal of all of this, where there's no room for confusion about what the composer intended. Let me erase this and we will go on. Okay, bring this back down. All right, so a couple of more scales to talk about really quickly here. The chromatic scale uses all 12 half steps, and it's a very colorful scale. It has no sense of tonal center. It adds intensity to melodies, and we really like it. Melodies are made up of pitches, and we use the pitches to determine the scale, which determines the key. So there are songs that are in the key of A minor, so that means that all the pitches are going to center around A. And we describe melody in two different ways, conjunct and disjunct. So conjunct melodies would be very smooth melodies, like, you could say, even though the ABCD song has a lot of thirds in it, it's still pretty conjunct. It's not leaping all over the place. Mary Had a Little Lamb, very conjunct. And then there are disjunct pieces, like the Star Spangled Banner is all over the place. It's a very disjunct song. So if composers want a song to be very approachable, very easy on the ears, very likable, they'll stick with a conjunct melody. If they want it to be emotionally intense or to get a certain feeling of excitement in it, it'll be very disjunct. Okay? Those are just devices that composers use. I don't know why my pen is not carrying stuff over today. I apologize, you guys. Sometimes this system works, sometimes it has its glitches. So from now on, I want you to be able to discuss the melody of the music that you listen to. Be able to identify where the melody is. If it's in the vocals, say the melody's in the vocals, or, the melody is taken over by the guitar here, okay? And be able to describe it in terms of, is it conjunct or disjunct? And I mean that in an overarching sense. Even the most calmingest songs may have moments where they're disjunct, but you have to ask yourself, primarily, what am I looking at? Okay? And then describe it in terms of a major or a minor sound. If the song sounds really happy, or it's upbeat, makes you feel uplifted, it's most likely in a major key. If the song is more somber, solemn, makes you maybe a little sad, maybe a little scared, it's going to be in a minor key, because that's the power of keys on the listener. So I hope that this has helped you understand melody and pitch a little bit better. Please visit musictheory.net for more information on scales and all of that, because it's a great resource. If you have any specific questions that you want to ask me, I'm always happy to answer, and I can do another video where we go through the ABC song. I may go ahead and just do that if I can find a nice printed sheet music copy for us, and we can talk about the ABC song. So I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a good time listening a little bit closer to melody, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say on your exams. Have a great day. Bye.